What's going on, Patreon? So we were actually in the middle of a Q&A video slash podcasty thing. Podcasty
For our
thing.
$15 Patreon members.
Absolutely. You should check it out. This is the situation that it is. And Luke had the idea of kind of giving you guys an update to the bobber. You guys have seen a couple videos on the channel. The bobber is still in the garage. Giant WTF with like 15 exclamation marks. So the bobber has not been sitting in the garage, and we thought it would be important to give you guys an update. We're not going to be making a YouTube video about it because this is more of a Patreon situation. You guys are the ones that support us, so we want to kind of be more open with you guys. And instead of having to make some stupid video and Chase read 15 comments of like, where's the bobber? Anyway. So,
like how we turned into a 2-year-old.
Yeah, trust me. Read the comments, you'll understand.
I know. That's why I like that you turned into a 2-year-old.
Good. So, we've actually, surprisingly enough, been doing a ton of work on the bobber. We're going to talk about that for a second.
Not really.
There's been a lot of dedicated days to the bobber when it's a quote-unquote finished bike. Like the last thing these guys knew were we were filming the reveal video thing. Yeah. So let's update them on where the bobber is, what we've been doing to it, and where we're at right now. Okay, so last thing you guys heard, we were out filming this really cool video. By the way, the reveal video that we have filmed thus far
came out pretty damn good.
It's pretty awesome. But while we were out doing the first real ride on it, Brian was riding it. He was the one that was riding the bike in the video. We get back, and the whole time Brian was like, something feels a little off. But I feel like you kind of threw it off to like, we haven't done the go over every nut and bolt and make sure it's tight. You kind of threw it off on that.
This is what we were pretty much doing besides filming for the reveal of the bobbers. We were doing what I refer to and many people refer to as a shakedown ride. So you take it out and you pretty much beat on it and see what you break. And if you break it, you fix it. And if you don't, everything is good. And then you go back through and you tighten everything again.
So we had a dual purpose situation going on. And, well, we got back, and you guys know how we had a really cool wrap over the exhaust, right? It was like blacked out, looked dope. Well, that was also dual purpose because that was actually the only reason that the rear exhaust didn't fall off the motorcycle. So this is the rear exhaust that was on our bobber.
It's actually, you can see the crack in it right here. That's where it broke.
This is where our bud Judd cut it.
Right, and the line back here is where that actually cracked.
So this pipe was hanging by the time we got back. Since that has happened, we've also realized there was an issue with the throttle and the throttle housing.
This was an ongoing issue that we had previously thought we had taken care of, and it reared its ugly head again. So we had to go even further and repair that issue, in a different manner, so it's permanent.
Right.
So we all feel comfortable with that.
Yeah.
So we're repairing the throttle housing, which was heavily modified to make it work for our machine. We had the rear exhaust pipe. We didn't want to do it ourselves. We kind of figured that the reason why it broke in the first place is because none of us are really good welders. So what we did was, instead of us trying to rebuild the pipe ourselves, we took the pipe that we had that was broken and brought it to our fantastic machinist, Judd. Mm-hmm. And he made us a new one. And it's an exact duplicate of the pipe that we had on there before. Except he put extra band of steel around the top where it had previously broken before, just as a support. And then we also added a stud to the back of the pipe so we could mount this lovely little bracket in. This is now our muffler pipe, so it's going to hold the pipe from vibrating, so there would be no chance of it cracking again.
Right.
So that was something that we needed to address, and it was addressed. There were also a couple real small things that we needed to handle. We needed to tighten a bunch of stuff up. We had to flip the mirrors to the top of the handlebar. We had them hanging from the bottom, but the way your body position was, it didn't allow for us to see in the mirrors, so we had to flip those over.
Right.
We had an issue with the clutch side grip spinning itself loose the way that it was designed, so we had to go and modify that and put a set screw in it. Again, thank you very much, Judd, for helping us with that one. So we had to set screw the throttle. We had to set screw the grip on the clutch side. We had to repair and replace our throttle housing to make sure that we don't break it again. We had our rear cylinder exhaust pipe rebuilt, and then we added a stud to it and a small bracket. This bracket obviously is not painted yet. We just finished building it and sanding it down, getting it prepped for paint. So that thing is ready there. The pipe is prepped for paint as well. Unfortunately, the past couple of days here in Georgia, it's been raining pretty heavily, so we really it's really a bit humid to be painting stuff. So we're just going to set that aside for now. Part of the issues why the bobber is still here is when we do find time to work on it, sometimes the weather does not cooperate with us. So, you know, there were a few little things that we had to address, which I figured we were going to have to do in the first place. When you modify a bike as heavily as we did our, what year is it, 2012?
Yep, 2012.
When you modify a 2012 Yamaha V-Star 1300 to look like nothing of its former self, you know, the amount of modifications that you had to do, something is going to come through and not work great. Oh, we also had to clearance the foot peg bracket. I'm sorry, the side stand bracket, so it would clear the shift rod a little bit better. Right. That was hanging up just a tiny bit. Yeah. You know, so there were a few small things that we had to change, and you know, once we're all set, we can send the bike off confident that it should be just a good, fun, riding, reliable machine for the next person.
I think some of the important points of all of this is, one, we have a quality standard where we could have very easily just sent the bobber out and not given a shit, but we take what we do super seriously, especially the final product that somebody's going to get, you know, these like our dream bike situation. So we're not going to just give away things with like tiny problems.
We don't want to give away nightmare bikes. We want to give away dream bikes.
Right. And I think what the bobber, I feel like every season teaches us something. And I think one of the bobber taught us a lot. But one of the main things that the bobber taught me is just because we're done with the bike, like the shakedown is now needing to be part of the season. Because it happened with the Monster, it's happened with the ZX-10, and it's happened with the Bobber, and it will probably happen with the Panigale.
When you rebuild any bike, you need to ride it a few times before you're ready to just take it out and ride it confidently.
Right. It's taken 3 seasons to get to the point where towards the end of the season, when we think we're done, an episode needs to be like, all right, we're going to go out for the shakedown, see what happens, and then modify what happens. Mm-hmm. Because towards the end of the season, you get all excited. The bike's almost done, and you just want to, like, for me,
fire it up, ride it, and be done with it.
Not be done with it, but like at that point, I want to do the cinematic video because now I'm in my realm. I get to come up with this like cool, graphic-y video and use the camera car and all that kind of stuff. And I think that clouds my judgment, or that up until now has clouded my judgment at the end of the season because I'm too excited to get to that point when we're not at that point, because I want to start when we cinematically reveal that bike. I want that to be the visual representation of this bike is done. You know what I mean? And currently, it up till now, it hasn't been. It will be for the Panigale. We will make sure to introduce that. But that's one thing that's definitely happening with Bobber. Hopefully, you guys have a better understanding of, you know, kind of why the bike's in the garage now. We do think we're close to getting it out of here.
We are very close. We're very close.
I mean,
we're just,
no major shit's going on.
We need to just make sure that the modifications that we make are correct.
So that's the update on the Bobber. If you guys enjoy this situation of us sitting around a table talking to fancy microphones, you might want to check out the podcast that we do if you're one of the $15 people. If you're all one of those people, then high five. You know exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, that's all we got. Thank you guys for supporting the show. We wouldn't be able to do what we do without you. We will see you guys on the next piece of content.